Hey guys, Science here once again, and as always bringing you some Shadow Priest PvP footage today for more dots, more procs, and today we're actually going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about the up-and-coming 5.2 patch changes. Now, first and foremost, I tried to do this live a couple times a day, but I have too short of an attention span. I can rant and rave as much as I want to in Battlegrounds, but when I'm trying to read patch notes and discuss those while trying to stay alive and actually do somewhat decent, I don't really excel at that. But that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick little commentary here, show you guys my preferred spec for it now, and the one change I'm going to make for 5.2. Then I'm going to hop into a Battleground, give you guys some stuff to watch while I actually do a separate commentary about the changes, and then just discuss those. But yeah, we'll have some PvP footage to watch in the meantime. But first, let's jump over here to the talent tree. As you can see, I have changed my talents from what I was using before. This is my preferred build for now. I've got Void Tendrils for rooting warriors, DKs, and rogues, feral druids as well, any melees. This one's just kind of my preferred out of all of these so far. I was running with Siphene for a long time and it's great, but it's useless against warriors when they pop Berserk, and you know, they're immune to fear. It's complete and total bogus, but Void Tendrils will buy you some time. Now, DKs, same problem. They can just pop Anti-Magic Shell, but at the same time, they can also pop Anti-Magic Shell, and your Tendrils are useless. Dominate Mind, useless. Fucking useless. All around the board, useless. Yeah, it might be okay in 2v2 when you're trying, if you're rolling double DPS. That's the only time I think it would be any use at all. Or if you want to be a dick, go to Eye of the Storm and just walk people off the edge. Moving on. Second tier, Phantasm. When you fade, blah blah blah, you're untargetable and you are immune to roots. This is changing in 5.2. This will now have a 5-second duration, but you will no longer be immune from ranged targeting during that period. It's just going to free you from roots, and you get a 2-second longer duration. I don't like that change, but we'll discuss that more later. From Darkness Comes Light, this is what I'm taking for now, because of the instant Mind Spike casts. This is also something changing in 5.2. My preferred spec here from Darkness Comes Light is its interaction with Mind Blast is going to change, because you can't use, you know what, we'll talk about that later. For now, this for instant cast Mind Blasts, or Mind Spikes leading up to instant cast Mind Blasts. In 5.2, I'm going to be taking Power Word Solace, which is changing to Solace and Insanity. We'll discuss that later. For now, I'm taking Spectral Guise. Yes, Angelic Bulwark is great, but it can be dispelled, and Spectral Guise is an amazing escape mechanic. This is my favorite one so far out of these. Desperate Prayer, fantastic emergency cooldown, but still, I like the escape mechanic. Divine Insight. This one, what can I say? Instant cast Mind Blast, we're going to need it. These two, very, very minimal usage. Like Power Infusion, yeah, that's great if people are leaving you alone, but they won't be. So take Divine Insight. Halo, currently for breaking out stealthies and for some bonus healing. Not later on, I'm probably going to switch to one of these two, probably Cascade. But I don't really use my final tier talent very often anyways. Our final tier talents are kind of weak as far as PvP goes. But I guess technically 2 changes for 5.2 as far as my talents go. I will probably be switching to Cascade. Anyways, alright, so that's my talent for now. Glyphs, what am I using glyph wise? I'm using Dark Binding, so just so I don't hop out of Shadow Form when I'm using Prayer of Bending, Renew, and Leap of Faith. It's nice and helpful. Dispersion, reduce cooldown, yeah. Pretty self-explanatory. It's your oh shit, save my life, get the fuck out of here cooldown, and it's nice. This one, Mind Spike, this glyph will be still useful, but not nearly as useful, and 5.2. But for now, you get 2 mind Spikes, you get an instant cast Mind Blast. It's fantastic. Now, the minors doesn't really matter. So, moving on, let's go ahead and queue it for a BG, and we will skip to the discussion. Alright guys, jumping right into it and heading straight down the list from the top. The first one is the amount of healing done by Flash Shield, Binding Heal, Renew, and Prayer of Mending have been reduced by 20%. Now, further down the list, I'm going to go ahead and skip because this is a general change. PvP power is going to have more of an influence on our healing done. This is fantastic and all, but I think with this switch, this change, that it's going to make us even more gimp at lower gear levels. So if you're just starting out, you know, like gearing your Shadow Priest, you're going to have even more trouble at first. Hopefully the new gearing system, where they're adding an extra tier, will help offset this, but I honestly can't say for sure. I just personally think it's a bad change. I think it should have just been left the way it was, just to help out the, fresh gearing people. Okay, Halo will no longer hit enemies that are in stealth. This is a complete and total shit change because it's our only anti-stealth utility. Granted, if you can detect them and hit them with something, that's fucking fantastic, but you always have very limited time to do it. If you see them at all, it's for a split second. So if you can get the target and hit them, then congratulations, because you're doing better than me. I personally think that instead of doing this, that Halo just needs to be redesigned. I think it needs to shoot out 2 rings, one that goes 30 yard and only heals friendly targets, and another one that goes 15 yards and damages enemy units. Personally, I think that would fix the problem, because your Halo wouldn't stretch out so far, and you would still have some kind of anti-stealth utility. I think that's very important. As we continue on down the list, we have Dominate Mind now has a 1.8 second cast time instead of 2.5. This doesn't matter at all to me, because, as I said, I think Dominate Mind's a shit talent anyways, but if it's your kind of thing, then that's good. Personally, I think Dominate Mind needs some kind of extra flair to make it better, so I think this is a good change. Angelic Feather now has a 6-second duration instead of 4. It's in the same or the same tier as Phantasm, so personally I couldn't really care less about this. It'll be good for PvE, not so much for PvP, just because Phantasm is still the stronger talent, but note that there is a very heavy Phantasm change that I will cover in a moment. This is probably my favorite one. Power Word Solace has been replaced with a new talent, Solace and Insanity. For Shadow, this ability causes Mind Flay to gain the Insanity effect when it's cast on a target with 3 Shadow dot spells on it. This means that your Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, and Devouring Plague all have to be on the target. But what this does is Insanity increases the damage of Mind Flay by 33% per Shadow Orb consumed. What that means is 100% more Mind Flay damage after you drop a Devouring Plague on them, and since they removed the Devouring Plague nerf, I think this is a very nice change, and I think in that tier, that Solace and Insanity is going to be the premier talent on that tree. The reason being is because the next change, Glyph of Mind Spike, only works for Mind Spikes that aren't instant casts from Surge of Darkness, is really going to hamper the utility of From Light Comes Darkness. Reason being is because you can, I recommend still glyphing for Mind Spike, because you still get that double Mind Spike Mind Blast opener, but I had that talent in Glyph combo specifically for building Shadow Orbs as I was going, because it's hard to get any casts off as a Shadow Priest, and those Mind Blast or Mind Spike procs really helped with that. But I do think that if you can get the Shadow Orbs built up and benefit from that Solace and Insanity, that alone is going to make up for the difference. So that's going to be something I'm looking forward to, is that talent change. I want to see how I can, put that into utility. Moving on, once again, Phantasm. This is what I was talking about. Phantasm no longer makes the priest untargetable by ranged attacks, and the movement impairing immunity effect is now 5 seconds rather than 3. I like the increased movement impairing immunity duration, but being untargetable by ranged attacks, it was one of the few cooldowns that we had. It was one of the few defensive cooldowns. Sure, we've got Dispersion, which is getting nerfed anyways, and we've got Vampiric Embrace, but Vampiric Embrace is a healing cooldown. It's a self-healing cooldown. It's not necessarily what you need in terms of survival sometimes, and the 3 seconds of being untargetable by ranged attacks was so nice, and I wish I had played with it a lot more than I did, but we can't really do much about that one. That one's something that we're just going to have to barrel through and deal with, and hope that maybe somehow, some way, somewhere, that the increased movement immunity is going to make up for it. The next ones will be Shadow specific changes, which is only 2, and that is the first one being Mind Blast damage has been increased by 20%. Again, I think we need more damage, especially as hard as it is to get casts off. Now, I think the Mind Blast damage increase is nice and all, but what I really wish they would do is, Mind Blast to me can be negligible, I don't care. I'm a Shadow Priest. What pisses me off about Shadow Priests these days is our dot damage is shit. It's about level with anybody else. like if we were, you know, doing about the same as warlocks, that would be fine. But when everybody else's dots are ticking for about the same, that just, it doesn't make sense to me. You know, we're supposed to be a dot class. We've always been a dot class, and now they're trying to turn us into some kind of card caster, and that I don't really like much. But again, mind blast damage increase, good thing, no complaints. The next one and the last one is the shit change that I mentioned about Dispersion being nerfed. And this is Dispersion now belongs to the Shadow Spell School. Now what this means is if you get interrupted and silenced casting Mind Blast or Mind Flay or Vampiric Touch, you can't disperse through the silence. You can't disperse to negate that damage. And again, that was one of the wise choices to do when you were silenced, because a lot of times that's when silences you, they're going to start putting on a lot of pressure because you can't do shit. So that dispersion thing is going to suck, and that means, you know, if you're going up against a caster, you don't really have a good time to use dispersion, because at that point it's going to be a nuke fest. And as, like I said, as negligible as our dots are, you can't just dot them and disperse and let your dots get you an advantage. So I think the dispersion change is complete and total shit, it needs to be changed. We should still be able to disperse through silence. A lot of other people can still use their cooldowns, but, you know, again, dispersion, that's just something we're going to have to deal with, really, and try to find some other way to utilize that. Like maybe during, if you're fighting affliction lock, just get your dots up. If you see them casting a haunt and you're not silenced, then, you know, try to disperse through the haunt, let them waste soul shards, something along those lines. I'll have to cover more on that later, but that's pretty much it for the shadow changes. They're not as bad. They're not looking as bad now as what they once were. So I'm not quite as demoralized with 5.2 as what I was going to be. And I think there's pretty much ways around all this. It's like the Mind Spike thing. We've got the new Solace and Insanity change. That's going to help out a lot. One I did miss that I'm just now looking at is Angelic Bulwark can no longer be dispelled. Well, that is the same tier as Spectral Guise, and I would still recommend Spectral Guise over Angelic Bulwark, just because Spectral Guise is an amazing escape utility. I use it all the time now that I have it. It's fantastic. But yep, I think that pretty much does it. So if you've got any questions, then just go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. If you're worried about anything and you want a further discussion on it, then go ahead and mention that in the comments. I will respond to you and get back to you with a video response as well. I am going to still be doing these Shadow Priest videos. I know I've been slacking a little bit, but that's because I've been on such a terrible losing streak with the Linus BGs that it's really, really annoying. But I am still going to have these videos rolling because I do love playing my Shadow Priest, and I look forward to seeing how these 5.2 changes affects my gameplay. I think it's going to be something that I'm going to have to get used to and adapt to, like we always do with patches, but it's not game breaking. I thought it was at first. As the changes rolled out, I thought I would have sworn my life it was game breaking for Shadow Priest, but I think now that I'm looking at it and strategizing and planning tactics and focusing on what to do with all these changes, I think it will work fine. Granted, we are still a GIMP class compared to a lot of other classes like Beastmaster Hunters, Warriors, DKs, especially with Hunters and DKs getting buffs and Warriors getting negligible nerfs. We're still kind of lower bracket, but you know, you just got to keep rolling with the punches and do what you can. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully it was helpful. If so, be sure to hit that thumbs up button for me. I'd really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. And if you did think this was informative, please tell your friends, get some word of mouth going, get some more views rolling into the channel, because that would really help me out. And I will thank you guys eternally if you do. Also, for subscribing, you can click on the top left. I'm trying out a new outro format. Hopefully it's suitable and pleasing to the eye. There's links to all kinds of different stuff. You can click the big window, you know, top right-ish, kind of, most of the screen. For the next video, you can click the middle left for the previous video and my Shadow Priest series. The bottom left will be my Warlock PvP series. You can also click bottom middle for my other channel where I do videos on Thursday for a Borderlands 2 Let's Play, and bottom right for a Druid leveling Let's Play series with my wonderful, wonderful companion, hint, hint, wink, wink, and maybe sometime in the future we'll take the TARDIS out for us to go and show you. But I suppose that does it for me today here, covering this awesome, awesome discussion. And I suppose I will see you guys next time. Oh, before I go, follow me on Twitter. Links top right. I've also got Facebook. You can go like that page. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, you know, got a dash. Things happening. Well, 4 things. Well, 4 things in a lizard. And until then, Alon Z.